The USA as well as the Soviet Union started to send probes to the moon in the late 50s. Many of these initial probes met with miserable failure. It is posited here that the cause for these early failures were due to a miscalculation of the lunar gravitational gradient. This is mainly because, in the case of a hollow spheroid, the center of mass is much closer to the surface of the moon. If in fact the moon is hollow, than if it really were a homogeneous mass of rock. The location of the center of mass of any celestial object is critical in determining its gravitational gradient, hence the final velocity of any object required to soft land or otherwise come in contact with the moon would not be known unless the location of the center of mass is somehow determined. We tend to take the moon for granted. It's a big hunk of lifeless rock locked in orbit around us. We sent 6 manned missions there, as well as a few probes. Now we've been there, done that, and it's time to move on to something more interesting. That tends to be the prevailing view of the moon. But there are some dissenters, fringe figures who claim that the moon is much more interesting than we've ever been led to believe. Most of people who believe that there are artificial structures on the moon also believe that NASA is attempting to suppress any indication of it by deliberately smudging and retouching the photographic images it releases to the public. 2 people who say they are former US government employees, Donna Hare and Carl Wolf, have come forward and, based on their own experience of being tangentially involved in the retouching program, confirmed that this is true. Even more astounding than the view that there might be some kind of artificial structures on the moon is the theory that the moon itself might actually be an artificial structure. That's right, there are people who believe that the moon itself is some kind of giant spaceship. This view was first expounded by 2 Soviet scientists in the 1970s, then later picked up and expanded on by Don Wilson in his book Our Mysterious Spaceship Moon. In a March 1970 article of Popular Science titled How Apollo 13 Will Probe the Moon's Interior, former SS Nazi director at NASA, Dr. Werner von Braun, wrote concerning the crash of Apollo 12's 2.5-ton lunar module into the lunar surface. The astounding result of that crash, the moon rang like a bell for nearly an hour, indicating some strange and unearthly underground structure. In that same article, published a month before Apollo 13's failed lunar landing, von Braun goes on to say, "An Apollo 13 spectacular will be the meteor-like crash on the moon of the great Saturn V rocket's whole top stage and instrument unit, totaling more than 15 tons. This will be a dramatic scale-up of the Apollo 12 experiment." Indeed it was. Despite technical malfunctions preventing the Apollo 13 crew from landing on the moon, they still managed to carry out the task of crashing the Saturn V third-stage rocket S-4B into it. This time, the moon rang out for over 3 hours. There are several official NASA photos taken throughout its lunar expeditions which often depict some extremely large, artificial-looking structures on the lunar surface. Some of these structures have been estimated to be several miles tall. The moon is full of holes that do not know what is on the bottom. It is believed to lead to the center of the hollow moon. However, NASA has tried their best over the years to blur and obscure many of these structures. Often their attempts are extremely blatant. 2 members of the Soviet Academy of Sciences have recently come up with the theory that the moon is a huge, hollowed-out planetoid that was sent into orbit around our world billions of years ago. I believe that the moon was hollowed out artificially, which means that it was done by some intelligence. Their hypothesis is that the moon is some kind of ancient spaceship brought here by intelligences unknown and probably since abandoned. As evidence, they cite the fact that craters on the lunar surface are never more than 2.5 miles deep. Even when the craters are more than 100 miles wide, they never penetrate below 2.5 miles. Why is this? Because the spaceship has some kind of armor plating 2.5 miles down, the spaceship moon theorists insist. There is a theory that the moon had somehow been captured by the Earth's gravitational field is interesting, but still not satisfactory. That is, if it is assumed that the moon is a natural object, maneuvered about by random gravitational processes. However, this theory is the most favored by scientists today. There are enormous objections to overcome in this last theory because of the extremely difficult celestial mechanics involved. The probability that the moon came from elsewhere in the solar system outside the orbit of the Earth is even more remote, if not totally impossible. This is because that as the moon approaches the Earth from outside Earth orbit, it would be gaining speed, and as it got near the Earth, a braking maneuver would be required to put it into the orbit that it has. A braking maneuver can only be accomplished with thrusting systems under intelligent control of some kind. The moon is said to have an abundance of helium-3, in fact somewhere around 1,100,000 metric tons. In retrospect, it will take only an estimated 100 tons to power the Earth for a year. Helium-3 some call the fuel of the future. Maybe the moon is an ex-mining base of aliens? Conclusion: the moon, a natural satellite or an artificial enigma? The moon has long been a source of fascination, mystery, and scientific inquiry. From the early failures of lunar probes in the late 1950s to the astonishing claims of artificial structures and hollow interiors, our celestial neighbor continues to defy conventional understanding. The initial difficulties faced by both the USA and the Soviet Union in successfully landing probes on the moon raise compelling questions. Could these failures have been due to a fundamental miscalculation of the moon's gravitational gradient? If the moon is indeed hollow, or at least possesses an irregular mass distribution, its center of gravity would be drastically different from that of a solid, homogeneous body. Such a discrepancy would have profound implications for spacecraft trajectory calculations, potentially explaining the early string of mission failures. Beyond the technical anomalies, the moon harbors even more extraordinary mysteries. The persistent claims of artificial structures, massive towers, geometric anomalies, and vast underground networks suggest that there may be far more to the moon than official narratives admit. Whistleblowers like Donna Hare and Carl Wolf have alleged that NASA systematically alters lunar imagery to obscure these anomalies, fueling suspicions of a deliberate cover-up. If true, this raises an unsettling question: what are they hiding? The most radical theory, that the moon itself is an artificial construct, challenges everything we think we know about celestial mechanics. The findings of Soviet scientists Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Shcherbakov, later expanded upon by Don Wilson, proposed that the moon is a hollowed-out spacecraft deliberately placed in Earth's orbit by an ancient, advanced civilization. The seismic data from Apollo missions, where impacts caused the moon to ring like a bell for hours, lends eerie support to this hypothesis. Additionally, the uniform depth of lunar craters, never exceeding 2.5 miles, suggests the presence of an impenetrable inner shell, consistent with the idea of an armored artificial structure. Theories of lunar capture, while mainstream, struggle to account for the precise orbital mechanics required to place the moon in its current position without intelligent intervention. The sheer improbability of such an event occurring naturally raises the possibility that the moon was placed there, an idea that, while dismissed by conventional science, cannot be entirely ruled out given the mounting anomalies. Furthermore, the moon's abundance of helium-3, a potential fuel source for advanced fusion technology, raises another provocative question. Was the moon once an extraterrestrial mining operation? If so, who left it there and why? In the end, the moon remains one of humanity's greatest unsolved puzzles. Whether it is a natural satellite with unexplained characteristics or an ancient artificial construct deliberately positioned in our skies, the evidence demands further scrutiny. The suppression of data, the anomalies in lunar geology, and the testimonies of insiders all point toward a truth far stranger than we have been led to believe. Until full transparency is achieved and independent investigations are allowed, the moon will continue to be a source of mystery, speculation, and wonder, beckoning us to look closer and question everything we think we know. Perhaps in the not-too-distant future, new missions, whether governmental or private, will uncover the secrets that have been hidden for so long. Until then, the moon remains not just a silent companion in our night sky, but a silent guardian of untold secrets. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I love hearing from you. Check out more videos on the screen, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.